Yeah, yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to this articleship guidance session where our motive is to help students to take a proper decision before them making an important step in their career. So I welcome you all to the YAR Factory. So today we'll be having this articleship guidance session in which our friends, people who are working on various domains will be explaining you what the work looks like in their specific domain such that it will help you to take a better decision. So, firstly, let us understand what our initiative is and what this YAR factory and YAR foundation is. So, I'd like to request our friend Thomas to speak about YAR factory.
In a world full of opportunities, the right guidance can make all the difference. Welcome to the YAR Factory and the YAR Foundation, two powerful initiatives designed to help students and professionals navigate their careers with confidence. Whether you're choosing a path after school, exploring job opportunities, or looking for mentorship, we are here to guide you. Let's dive in. The YAR Factory, a podcast for growth. Imagine a place where you get expert insights, career guidance, and industry knowledge, all in one engaging platform. That's the YAR Factory. Created for students and working professionals, this podcast explores topics that matter: finance, marketing, business trends, entrepreneurship, personal growth, and beyond. With expert guests, industry leaders, and insightful discussions, we bring you the knowledge you need to succeed. Whether you're preparing for higher education, looking for job opportunities, or simply want to stay ahead in your field, the YAR Factory is your go-to career mentor. So plug in your earphones, hit play, and let's learn together. The YAR Foundation, an NGO with a vision. While education is essential, it's not enough. Many students struggle to find the right career path, resources, and mentorship. This is where the YAR Foundation steps in. An NGO dedicated to bridging the gap between education and real-world opportunities. Through career counseling sessions, mentorship programs, skill development workshops, and community outreach, we empower students to make informed career choices. Our goal is to ensure that every student, regardless of background, has access to the guidance they need to succeed. Whether it's helping a student explore career options after 10th or 12th grade, or supporting young professionals in navigating the job market, the YAR Foundation is committed to making a difference. Our mission and future vision. The future belongs to those who are prepared. At the YAR Factory and the YAR Foundation, we are building a community of learners, thinkers, and leaders who will shape the future. As we grow, we plan to expand our mentorship network, collaborate with industry experts, and provide more online resources, so every student and professional has access to the knowledge and support they deserve. The journey has just begun, and with your support, we can empower thousands of lives. The best investment you can make is in yourself. Are you ready to take charge of your future? Subscribe to the YAR Factory podcast for insightful episodes. Follow the YAR Foundation to stay updated on our initiatives. Join our mission to make quality career guidance accessible to everyone. Visit our website and connect with us on social media. Together, let's build a future full of possibilities.
Yeah. So, guys, after you've understood of what our initiative is about, what is YAR Factory, so let us start with the session. So, before we start it, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Sai Pradeep Majeti, and I'll be the host for today's session. And now we also have our friends, Mr. Santosh, Mr. Sampath, who is working in business consulting, which is internal audit at EY, and we have Gayatri, who will be speaking on transfer pricing. So we have Mayank, who will be speaking about direct taxation, and we have Satvik Prabhu, who will be speaking on indirect taxation, and we have Sanjana Malayala, who will be speaking on statutory audit. So let us start with the session. Now I hand over the mic to Mr. Sampath so that he'll give you guidance on this domain, internal audit.
Hi
Over to you,
everyone, good
Sampath.
afternoon. Thank you, Pradeep. So this is Sampath, and I am working in internal audit in EY. So it's been almost 7 months since I've joined internal audit. So firstly, to give you a brief about internal audit, it's basically about auditing the internal process of any company. So as you all know, based on the Companies Act 2013, internal audit is applicable for all the companies, but there are some criteria for private and unlisted public companies, whereas every listed public company has to get their internal audit done. And internal audit is not necessarily done by CAs, but preferably done by CAs. Now, major question that everyone has is what actually is internal audit. So for that, I have a presentation that I can show you all. So if you see here, what is internal audit? So just going forward, as I explained you, it is an independent objective assurance and consulting activity designed to add value to improve the organization's operations. So basically what you do here is that whenever you do the internal audit of a company, you aim in such a way so that the organization's operations are improved. Because not every operation a company's owner can take care of. So you are that one person who will be taking an in-depth view of how the operations are going. If you will see whether the process is going as per the design schedule or not. And if it is not going, you will suggest some corrective measures to make the operations better. At the end of the day, your main duty is to, save some money for the company. So you might understand what is the difference between internal audit and stat audit. In fact, recently one of my friends asked whether should I go for internal or stat audit. So internal audit is more driven towards the business operations. We'll be going in depth of what actually happens in the company. So if you see here, the main objective of an internal audit is to improve the organization's operations and add value. And in statutory audit, it's more driven towards the financial statements. And it's about providing an opinion on truth and fairness of the financial statements. Of course, even in internal audit, we definitely see the financial statements, but we will not go as in-depth as a statutory auditor goes. And in internal audit, it can be even done by the internal staff, or it will be even hired by external agencies as well. Like for suppose one company, they have an internal audit team, but still they do hire from outside, just so that they can have a fair picture of how the company's operations are going. But excuse me. But for statutory audit, it is definitely has to be conducted by an independent external auditors. Only then the true and fair view of the financial statements can be coming out. Talking about the scope, in internal audit, it's a wide range of scope. There'll be multiple company operations like the sales and marketing, procure to pay, there'll be plant operations, there'll be finance and accounts, and there'll be HR and payroll. Basically, every operation that binds a company together is there in the internal. But for statutory audit, it's primarily focused on the financial records and accounts of the company. And for internal audit, it can be done anytime. It will be done throughout the year, because right now I'm working in a client where I have to be doing throughout the year. It will be divided quarter-wise. There will be scope in each quarter, which I'll be discussing further when we go in detail. And for statutory auditors, it is done usually at the end of the fiscal year. And for reporting, we usually report it to the audit committee, whereas statutory audit reports to the stakeholders of the company, including the shareholders. So for the regulation point of view, as we know, internal audit are governed by the Institute of Internal Auditors, IIA. And for statutory audit, it's mostly the nation regulatory requirements. For example, ICAI governs the statutory audit requirements. So mostly CAs, chartered accountants, are appointed for statutory audit because they only have the power to sign the document, sign the statutory audit report. But for internal audit, there's nothing, no rule that only the CA should do. Even MBA graduate is also allowed to do internal. But that doesn't mean this is less, because internal audit mainly focuses on increasing the operational efficiency of an organization. So what usually happens in an IA? So firstly, your process are divided into quarters. And in each quarter, there'll be specific process that you need to perform. Or it can be done either quarter-wise or even half-yearly. It will be completely dependent on the agreement that two companies sign. Firstly is the scope finalization. So what exactly is there in the scope is what we will see. And next is a process understanding. For suppose you have a process called sales and marketing. You'll first understand what is the process that this company follows. You will see, you'll understand what is exactly the process that they're following. And after that, you will do the data extraction. For suppose they are using any ERP software like SAP or they're using Tally, you extract the necessary data which you feel are the pinpoints for any risk area. And after extracting the data, you do the brainstorming that whatever data that you need, you'll extract them. The main primary thing that first anyone does is seeing the trial balance and based on that, taking a decision on what data is need to be extracted. And then we do the analytics part, where we use Excel or Alteryx to do the analytics. During the analytics itself, we will see what all we need to actually find out because we will get some doubts regarding why this transaction has this impact or why not it could have been done in this particular way. For suppose there is a capex expenditure that needs to be capitalized but hasn't been capitalized. So we will keep that as a query and then ask to the client. So if at all the client accepts that it might have been an oversight error, then we take the supporting documents that it was an oversight error and then also the management action plan. When is the management going to actually implement this process? And then we draft the report and then we present it to the audit committee. This is broadly and almost this is how internal audit actually works. And going forward is the career opportunities. As you see here, we have risk management consultant, internal auditor, compliance officer, and information technology auditor. It varies. Honestly, your experience is what drives the internal audit. How well are you experienced and how well you can, save the cost for the company is what actually determines how well you are doing it. How well are you able to find out the process flaws that are there in the companies? There are various other career opportunities that can go for it. And usually the interview questions. So in internal audit, they expect you to have at least the basic knowledge of all the subjects that you have studied in your CA intermediate. For suppose they expect you to have the knowledge of the basic accounting standards that you have studied in the advanced accounting in your CA intermediate. And the next thing is they will expect you to have the knowledge of basic income tax rules, especially TDS, and also other income tax rules based on the amendments that have been occurred. And also the basic GST rules, like you have the input tax credit rules or the exemptions or the return filings, these are the rules. And also they will ask you the current affairs. If at all there is any recent major amendment, how well are you aware of it? And then they might even ask you situation-based questions. For suppose, if there is any process that is being carried out in an organization, how are you going to audit it? Of course, as a fresher, you might have this trouble to answer the question, but the main thing that they want to say is how well are you able to think of? Because internal audit is all about that. How well are you able to analyze that and ask better questions? You have to be a curious cat on this because how curious you are shows how much depth you want to go into the process. Because only when you go into the depth, only then you will find out the flaws. So this is majorly about internal audit that everyone usually thinks that they don't know, but it's very simple and very easy. It only depends on how well you want to, make it big for yourself. How well you want to think and how well you want to apply your basic common sense in extracting the process flaws or any other thing. So this is about internal audit, friends. If there are any questions, I would appreciate it. Okay, looks like there are no questions, I feel.
Thank you, Sampath. Thank you for your guidance on internal audit. So before we proceed further to the next domain, I would like to request all the students who are live with us on YouTube and also who are a part of our WhatsApp community. So I request them to firstly take a piece of paper and jot down your expectations from your articleship so that you can get a clear decision that that you need to take after this session. Most of us tend to be confused because we have a lot of we have a lot of data in our minds that we get by speaking to our seniors, by speaking to our folks, friends, colleagues. So we have a lot of information in our, we have a lot of data inside our head, but we are not able to get that clarity before taking that important decision. So in order to help you convert that information, convert that data into information, so I would request every one of you to take a piece of paper, take a minute or 2 minutes of time, jot down your expectations from your articleship. It can either be networking, it can either be networking, specialization in a particular field, or any others that you feel going out on outstation audits. It depends on one own self what they expect from their articleship. So I request you all to jot down your expectations, and after jotting down, we'll proceed with the next domain. And I request you to to note down those expectations when each domain we are speaking about each domain. Like as Sampath spoke about internal audit, you mark those after listening to him, you've listened to him. So basis that, you can mark how many points are getting satisfied in your expectations. So at the end of the session, after each speaker speaks about their domain, you can repeat the same process so that at the end of the session, you'll be having the decision in your own hand, and it will help you for converting your data into information and take a right decision. So I request you all to do it in 2 minutes. We'll be starting with the next domain in the next
Pradeep,
2 minutes. Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting, but I want to just answer a few basic questions that everyone would have regarding internal audit, which I forgot to address earlier.
Sure.
So one thing that I have noticed that many people keep asking is, where do usually internal auditors stay? Like after coming into internal audit, the most common questions that I have got is that, where do you usually stay? So it depends. Like they ask whether you stay in the office or do you usually go to the client place. So currently on the client that I'm working in, I have to be in the client place because there is a client dependency. The reason is simple, because the data that you need to extract, the rank, or I mean the whatever the ERP system is there, it will be lying in the client. So you have to be connected to their Wi-Fi in order to extract the data. And the other advantage of being in the client place is that you will always have that advantage of interacting with the process owners to clarify the questions in a very simpler manner. And the another question that usually everyone has is that like internal audit in Big Four. So is there any attempts criteria for that? So considering myself, I have been having my multiple attempts. So being in multiple attempts as well, they have taken me in. I've got the opportunity to work in a Big Four. So other than that, if there is any other major question that usually people will ask is that, should I go for internal audit? So one thing I can say is that if at all you want to go for internal audit, go in, think of it in such a way that if you want to really understand the business processes, because internal audit is not so easy, because you have to be traveling to client places if at all the client is present outside the place that you're situated in. Because the client that I'm working in, I have got the opportunity to go to outstation audits as well. It was not major, but at least 1 to 2 weeks that I've been to. It's been almost 5 to 6 times that I have gone. So it depends. If at all you're willing to even go for outstation, internal audit will provide you the chances. Nevertheless, even stat audit has the opportunity that you can go to the outstation audits as well. So if at all you're interested in outstation audits, or you want to experience how the business works in depth, then definitely I think you can choose internal audit. And also another thing is that you will be changing different workplaces. Like it will not be that you'll be staying in the same cabin, the same place for the longer period of time. So these are some of the common FAQs that I felt that needs to be addressed. And one more thing will be like, how do you manage studies amidst all of this? It is difficult, but I would say the learning that you get will be great. And if at all it will help you in your final exams, it will totally depend. Because in subjective way, it's definitely not going to help you, because it will help only in auditing in a very little manner. But the kind of brain that you get, the kind of analytical mind that you will get, is definitely something that will help you in the future. That's what I want to say, Pradeep, and I think you can take over.
Thank you, Sampath. So I believe every one of you have noted down your expectations. So basis that you can mark as we proceed with our further speaker. Now I request Ms. Gayatri to speak on the domain transfer pricing. Welcome, Gayatri.
Yeah, thank you, Pradeep. Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Gayatri. I am working as an article at EY Transfer Pricing. So before starting about the work exposure in transfer pricing, I would like to speak about what transfer pricing is, because most of you might have just heard about it, but no one actually knows what happens in transfer pricing. So let us understand what transfer pricing is first, and then get into how the work is. So the term says it all. Transfer price is basically the price at which you transfer goods or services, and this should happen between related parties, because only then you have the scope of manipulating your prices. Otherwise, if it's between unrelated parties, you usually transfer at the market price. But if it's between related parties, what happens is you have this chance of manipulating your prices in order to reduce your taxes, and this will be a loss for tax authorities. And even to reduce taxes, there should be this tax arbitrage, which means there should be difference of taxation, the tax rate in locations where your related parties are there. Like for example, if it's within India, the tax rate is same no matter if you're related parties or unrelated parties. So there it doesn't apply, like the compliance or the act provisions doesn't don't apply. But if it is between two different countries, the tax rates are different, so you can manipulate your prices at which you are transferring your goods or services, and accordingly your tax rates might reduce. But this would be a loss for Indian tax authorities, so they have this certain guidelines which you have to follow in order to uh, in order to transfer your goods at market price. So coming to work, uh, there are I would like to divide it in three categories. There is assessment, there is advisory, and there is compliance. Assessment is only when you understand compliance, you will be able to properly be interested what happens, properly understand what happens in assessment. Compliance is very simple. You will have to make this TP reports, uh, for which the due date is 31st October. It is the peak season of transfer pricing, October. And then you will be having assessment, which starts from November. Uh, so getting into like what happens and what do you usually say in your TP report is the price at which you're transferring goods is market price. And in TP, we don't use the term market price. We use something called ALP, which is arm's length price. We are supposed, as TP consultants, we are supposed to calculate this arm's length price. Like you have a database where you have all other companies. You look into their financials, what services are they into. Is this company comparable to my client? If it is comparable, I'll uh, I'll have to see at what price they are transferring the goods. And you won't have one or two companies. Like you will have a database of thousands of companies from which you apply filters, like you have qualitative filters, quantitative filters, and then your it reduces down to some 10 to 20 comparables, and you will average the average price at which they are selling the goods. Your price should be within that range, this arm's length range. So this is what happens in TP. Basically, it's all about finding comparables, and assessment also is all about comparables. You most of the times you're fighting on comparables only. Like this company is my comparable. No, this company can't be your comparable. It's all about comparables, and also um, there are few things. I don't think if I start getting deep into it, you'll understand anything, because again, it's all what I'm talking is totally new to you people, because we don't have it in CA intermediate also. So work is interesting. Now talking about whether it is interesting or not, it is very subjective because it's very niche field. You don't get a lot of exposure, like you don't get to know everything. Only TP, you will have to be prepared that you will only know TP for your whole life. If you're someone who likes to gain expertise in a single thing rather than knowing everything, then it is suitable for you. Otherwise, if you're someone who is like, no, I want to know everything, if you're someone who thrives to gain knowledge in all uh, domains, then I don't think TP is suitable for you. But if you're someone who wants to be in employment for your whole life, then TP is, you have to give it a thought, because if you're in employment, obviously getting expertise in something is will give you good growth in your career. And moreover, yeah, I forgot to tell you this one thing. There is something called FAR analysis, which you do in your TP report, where FAR, in the sense, functions, assets, and risks. So here you will deep dive into what functions your client is into, what kind of assets they are using, what is the risk, how does a group work, how are the functions and risks distributed among the different related parties. And you will also have industry analysis, where you get to know all the stats of the industry, how does the industry function, how, like, yeah. So you will have this industry analysis thing and FAR analysis, which is, again, it is not TP specific thing, but you will get to learn about a various different kinds of industries. Like, uh, I don't think you get to uh, get this kind of knowledge in any other department, like in audit and all. It is very, client specific thing, but here you also study about your comparables, like their industry, their functions, assets, risks. So this is something which is very different in TP. um, so yeah, any more questions, I'm happy to answer. And yeah, before closing, I have one suggestion for all of you. Uh, Before selecting your domain or anything, I would want you to concentrate on what your interests are, rather than uh, what happens is everyone is like, should I get into big four, should I get into mid-size, like they are stuck on that point, but no one actually thinks you have to start in this way. What is my interest? And as per your interest, choose your domain, and according to your domain, choose your firm. Please don't do it in the reverse order. First you think of which firm to get into, then you see, then you apply in every domain in that firm, then wherever you get, you just go for it, rather than, because be serious, you have to do that work for your whole life, like 8 hours a day you're doing your work, the maximum time of your day you're giving it to your work. So be very mindful of what you're choosing, rather than just, मुझे big four में जाना है तो I'll go into whatever domain I want. No, please don't do that. Please be mindful of choosing your domain. Thank you. Yeah. Practical example, okay. uh, for let's say you have a firm in India and you have a firm in US. uh, okay, not US, but some Gulf country where the tax rate is very low. So what you will be doing is, if the market price is 100 for some good, uh, you can sell it to your AE at 150 so that you can increase your expense, reduce your profit, and pay less tax. So what happens is if at all it is not your AE, you can't do that. You will just have to sell it at 100 rupees no matter what. But because it's your AE, you're increasing your price and selling it to your AE so that you can pay less tax. So what transfer pricing, the purpose of transfer pricing is basically to avoid that, to avoid manipulation of prices, and the tax authorities shouldn't lose their revenue. There's something called BEPS, base erosion and profit shifting. So in order to avoid that, tax authorities have put some guidelines where if you would have sold the same good to an unrelated party in the same country, you would have sold it at 100 rupees. So now even if it's your AE, you have to sell it at 100 rupees. Again, okay, I'll get into what we do for our client. Uh, so if my client's margin is 12%, and let's say it is into IT. In IT industry, all the companies on an average have a margin of 15%. So my Indian tax authorities would question my client, why is your margin less compared to others? Because you might be selling to your AEs at higher prices and you're reducing your margin in order to pay less taxes. So this is not acceptable. Your margin should be within the arm's length range. You will have to find that arm's length range. You will have databases. You will have a lot of companies. You will filter. You will put various filters, and you will find out the exact proper comparables to your company. And you will. There is something called 35th and 75th percentile, 65th percentile. If let's say I have 10 companies which I got at the end after putting all the filters, and my arm's length range is between 14 to 17%, then my client's margin also should fall between 14 to 17%. It can't be less than that. If it is less than that, my tax authorities would question me, boss, why is your margin less? Why is it not 14 to, it should be between 14 to 17%, because all other companies are having 14 to 17%. Why is your margin less? So we advise our clients to have that margin, and we make reports saying that my client's margin is within the arm's length. So advisory is about advising your client as to what margin they have to maintain, and litigation is to justify your client's margin. Okay, my client's margin, let's say you are a new company, you are new into the industry, so you will not have profits in the very beginning few years. So you can justify, you can, in litigation you can justify ki I am new to the industry, so my profits are less than the industry average. So this is what happens in assessment and advisory. Compliance is just you will make report and you will say that you are complying with all the guidelines that you are seeing. This is basically just one section of whole tax, direct tax. It's section 92, and you deep dive into that particular section.
Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you for your explanation and also giving a practical example. I hope most of our students who have no idea of transfer pricing are at least having a basic idea of what the work looks like, so that they can take a decision of going into transfer pricing or not, or further in researching about that specific domain. Thank you.
Yeah.
So now
Also, I would sorry to
yeah, it's
interrupt.
okay.
One more point is you might also be having the question of what to prepare in the prepare for the interview. So don't bother about that, because they understand that you don't have transfer pricing in your CA intermediate. They would not ask very TP specific questions. They would just want you to know basic thing, like what even what I explained is very deep. So you don't have to remember all this and tell in your interview. Just have a basic idea of what transfer pricing is and what you are expecting. You just have to have that clarity on what it is. That's it. You don't have to worry ki array I don't know anything, what if they ask section numbers, what is what. They don't ask that deep questions about transfer pricing, but just be confident and your attitude should be in such a way that your interview, the one who is taking your interview, should have that confidence that this person will learn no matter what. This person has this capability to learn people. That's it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri. So now we have Mr. Mayank, who will be speaking about this about the domain direct taxation. Welcome, Mayank.
Thank you, Pradeep, for calling. So I am Vice Chairman of Srikasa Dhanbad branch. Uh, I am current Vice Chairman of Srikasa Dhanbad branch, and I am Article Assistant at Nandan Kishore Tulsian and Associate. So I will be talking about a direct tax. Uh, all the inter student and as a finance student, we all have inter student have a basic understanding of direct tax, and we all have studied the direct tax. And in final, you will study in details about the direct taxation. So I made a basic presentation for you all for the understanding. So what are the areas you will work in direct taxation? Firstly, income tax, we all know, and you all have studied in CA Inter as well as CA Final. You will studied in detail about the direct taxation. Okay, so income tax, it is the fundamental aspect that we have studied. Okay, and it involves the taxation of individuals and corporates, and the entire based and the entire assessment is based on the income of the people, either in corporate or individual or any trust or NPOs or any partnership. All have to give an income tax, and uh, we have to assess the income tax, basic income, and then it comes the corporate tax. We have to give the tax to assess that we have assess the tax of corporate. Okay, so working with the business to ensure that they are compliant with the tax regulation compliance. They have to comply with the tax regulations. Okay, including the we have to do a tax planning of the corporate. So that's the one of the important area you will work on, the tax planning and the compliances. So in tax planning, we have to see what the client needed. In tax planning, we see how to reduce the tax. What are the we have to see the loopholes that the income tax have generally have. So in tax planning, we have to offer strategic advice to minimize the tax liability of our clients. So for with the compliances with the law, with the compliance of the laws, we minimize the tax of our client. And due dates. Okay. Different domain, and in direct tax we all do income tax, corporate and audit and planning, and transfer pricing is related to direct tax, but it give a different domains. Okay, and TDS, tax deducted at source, it is the one of the prominent area that you will be doing in direct taxation. Okay, uh, in in TDS, ensuring that employees, contractor or other deduct that correct given $15 to the US company. So, and he have to give the tax in India also the same income, that is $100. This is not acceptable,
Uh,
and it is
Mayank,
hello.
sorry to interrupt you. I guess we have a technical glitch on YouTube. Could you please wait for a minute? We're sorting
Okay,
it out.
okay, okay. So I enjoy TD double A. Hello, is my okay? My screen is visually
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Okay. So I am talking about TD double A. So what is TD double A now? In TD double A, we help helping companies navigating cross-border taxation issue, ensuring they doesn't pay twice tax on the same income. The TDAA plays a key role in reducing or eliminating double taxation through tax credit or exemptions, which make this an exciting and challenging area to work in. Okay, so in as we all know, the government is eliminating the double taxation policies. So, but my personal experience. There's a client who write books and sell through Amazon in US market. So he had, for an example, he had earned income of $100 by selling books through Amazon in US, and he had paid $15 the tax rate by as he sell the books in US. So when he is an Indian resident and he have to pay the tax in India also. Okay, he had come to us and he asked that I had income of $100 and I paid $15 to the US government. So, uh, uh, does I have to give that income tax to in India also on 100 rupees? Sorry, $100. So we are saying no. We have to there's a form we have to fill it and ask the government that he had paid the tax in US, so they don't have to pay the same same tax on the same income in India. So TDW is one of the exciting area that we will work and help the client so that they doesn't pay the tax on the same income. Okay, and second, the most exciting area we will work is tax restructuring. Okay, in tax restructuring now. Uh, Businesses that going through merger, acquisition, or reorganization to ensure tax efficiency compliance with applicable law. Uh, many companies that there is a merger and acquisition and reorganization of many companies. We listen it on daily basis. So we have to see that if two companies are doing merger or acquisition, it is a different domain, basically merger and acquisition. But in we have to deal with tax also about merger and acquisition. Uh, okay, and the other most exciting area that we will work on, that is tax policy advocacy. Okay, sometimes I get involved uh, in advising policymakers or corporate clients on change to tax policy, ensuring that tax law are fair, transparent, and beneficial to both the government and business. Uh, we will we will basically advise the policymaker about the corporate client or the tax policy which government about that what are the glitches or loophole that their tax policy have and to the our client about the planning tax in such a effective manner that they doesn't have to that they have to give the less or minimum taxes. Okay, and exceptions in taxation. Okay, it is one of the greatest area that you will work on in that tax. Okay, uh, handling specific exemptions, such as exemptions for certain industries, special taxes for small and medium enterprises, MSME, okay, and non-taxable income streams. There are many income which are not taxable or they are taxable at zero rate, and sometimes the client pay the taxes on that, and we have to advise the client that okay, you don't have to pay on this income and you have to pay tax on this income. Basically, MSME doesn't is a tax free for 10 years. So we have to see and advise the client of MSME and other non-taxable streams that they don't have to pay tax, and these are the exemptions that you can possess. Okay, a small walkthrough at how the work will be in our direct taxation. First, we will understand the what the client need. Does they want? Does they want us to plan their income tax so that they have to pay the less or minimum taxes, or they want us to file the income taxes, or okay, in direct taxation you have to be regular update about the your direct taxation. Okay, there's a lot of amendment in direct taxation, as we all know. You have to be ready with the amendment as soon as they are, and you have to be regularly updated about the industries and the new income taxes. Okay, you have to research about the tax law exemption and potential tax saving opportunities. It is the main thing, tax saving opportunities that you will doing in research and analysis of that taxation. Okay, and you have to file tax and document. Okay, like income tax audit. Okay, you will do tax audits and you will file tax audit. You will uh, ask the data from the client and collect that data so that you can file tax and document them and uh, send it to the government. And tax planning. Okay, in tax planning you will advise the client like I earlier said. uh, in tax planning, it like big corporates like Reliance, Infosys, or Tata, they all do. Reliance is the one of the efficient tax planning team. If you say the India's the best tax planning team is Reliance, they make they find such a loophole by the tax planning team so that they give the least tax. Okay, and review and updates. Okay, it is the we will constantly review about new tax law and regulation. Okay, is essential as tax law can change frequently. This ensure your client are always in compliance. Okay, as you all know, the tax law has changes. Okay, there's a regular amendment in taxes, and you have to update your client regularly about the changes in tax law, and you have to see that the new system or new update of tax law is beneficial to your client or not. Okay, and future. Okay, uh, there's a vast and great future if you do uh, your articleship in direct tax domain. Okay, uh, I will left transfer pricing and Gayatri had said to you. Okay, SEZ, special economic zone, specialized in tax break and incentive within unique economic zones. Okay, uh, you will also get opportunity in SEZ for their tax advisors. Okay, that they are tax haven, and you have to plan tax for their after the tax havens, and when the tax haven also, you have to advise them about the different tax laws and about the different things. Startups, okay. Uh, Startups are blooming in India, and direct taxation give you a greatest opportunity to work with this startup and consult them and SEJ. Okay, corporate world is full of opportunities with the direct tax domain. If you know, if you have a good hand in DT, you can make a great career in corporate world and consultancy firm. There's a increasing demand in consultancy firm as there are number of businesses increasing, and the growth of country is also blooming. So you will have a greatest opportunity in consultancy and corporate. If you want to open your practice house, if you after being CA, if you want to do your open your own practice, okay, then also that taxation will give you upper hand to for your practice. Okay, you can have the big clients. Okay, to whom you can offer the consultancy, and you can and they pay a lot. Okay, and you also give the financial planning advisory to different areas of the market. Okay, and okay, the conclusion is simple that many of students find that tax challenging, okay, but they are uh, equally rewarding to you all, because that tax is an that tax will give you an amazing opportunity in future, as a lot is changing by the government in that taxation, and there's a regular updates of that taxation and a lot of startup and consultancy firm in that taxation. Okay, that tax involve okay, you have to be continuous learning and adaptation, and you have to be regular updated with the changes in that taxation. Okay, now I have to now I will be speaking about finals. Okay, if you do your DAC tax 1 year, if you all do your articles in that tax domain, then your one paper of final, that is that taxation will be very easy. You all can you all will have a upper hand in that taxation paper. Okay, you all does not need to give a lot in that taxation uh, paper in CA final, and in integrated business paper, you will also is also help you in that tax if you do in your articles in that taxation. Okay, but doesn't come in that tax domain just to make your CA final easy of that taxation. Only come in tax domain when you are interested uh, for the tax planning and seeing how the tax can be saved and what are the new policy, and you will, and if you want to be updated, there are a lot of time when you will be feel a lot of pressure when you can't handle a lot of pressure. But I know if you all be challenging and you all want to do that taxation articleship in that taxation domain, then a lot of emerging opportunities is waiting for you all. But you have to be a regular updated and challenging hand to hand. And interview question, you have to be very much uh, clear and about CA Inter, because a lot of questions from your CA Inter will be there. A lot of sections they will gonna ask. Okay. Uh, so please make your CA Inter that taxation better. If you doesn't get a good mark in that taxation, but if you make your interview worth it, then they will choose you in that tax domain. But your interviews should be go very well. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Mayank, for sharing your knowledge on direct taxation, as most of the students will have this doubt, and thank you for addressing that, because direct taxation is one of the vast subjects after FR in CA final. So it's very interesting to know that that paper will be easy for you when you work in direct taxation domain. So now, before we proceed to the next speaker, I would like to remind every one of you that I believe most of you are have jotted down your expectations and also marking if they are getting satisfied in that particular domain. So that this is very much important for you, so that by the end of the session, you have a proper decision in hand of what to choose for your articleship. So now let us welcome Sanjana, who will be speaking about statutory audit domain. Welcome, Sanjana.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. I'm Sanjana Malayala. I'm pursuing my articleship in BDO. So, before starting about my journey in the stat audit, I just want to tell you one thing. If financials could speak, do you think they would speak the truth? Yeah, here we, the auditors, we make them to speak the truth. So, what how the stat audit process goes on. How the audit process goes on. We check the financials, we check the numbers, and we're analyzing its nature from an effect on entity. See, if we were checking the various areas, uh, we have P&L items, balance sheet items. Okay, if I got to know about checking some area in FSA like other expenses, we'll get to the point from where those how those entries were making, how those expenses were recorded in the same area. So this process is nothing but which makes you effective and which makes you understanding how they were recording everything. So in the process of stat audit, you will also get to know the most important thing is interacting with the client. And yeah, you can hear me, right? So stat audit is nothing but your examination of figures. So I want to tell you like how this process, how the stat audit goes in our BDO. So we learned how the stat audit process happens. It's like it has 4 areas: scoping, planning, and examinations, and documenting everything. So when I was like first when into this audit department, I was like nervous to check only with the numbers. But when you are checking the numbers, you'll get to know the actual business, how they were processing. And in the process of checking, you will understand why those entries were made. And the most important thing where you get to know about the important characteristics like professional skepticism. See, in start audit, you check the financials, but for understanding, you will interact with the client, what's happening. So that plays a key role in the start audit. So in performing this process of audit, the first thing is we should take responsibility, because stakeholders depends on our in our process of the audit. They take the decisions depending on our audit report. So the responsibility plays a key role, and we should interact with client for clarify regarding any process. As we studied, we should inbuilt the characteristics of professional skepticism, which are very important in the process of the audit. And in the process of the audit, when I was interacting with the client and knowing the transactions, how those were happened in the financials, it enhanced my level of understanding. And this makes, as an article and upcoming chartered accountant, motivating me towards my work. And doing such task is always makes responsibility to check accounting systems, legal compliances, and relating to the financials, in-depth examination of particular transactions and from source to end. So such things which you saw theoretically in notes is done practically in your stat audit. And one more thing, stat audit mostly depends on the documentation. Documentations plays a key role in further audits and in the on process of the audits. So yeah, they also helps you to review the process, what you are doing, what you have done also. So I was also very excited to share that I also done with many audits for me, for some small entities and for also an IPO and IPOs. So here, and start audit is a, it is the core area of a uh, chartered accountant, so that you also understand the process how this financials goes on through the start audit. You don't only check the numbers whether we are matching the numbers. You'll get to know what has happened and why those entries were made. You'll get to know everything from one end to other end. And we know start audit we do the at the end of the time. It is not like whole year process. So you will have some limitations. You will have some, you'll have some time limits. You have to complete your start audit in the so and so time. So completing this audit in limited time, which has happened throughout the year, is literally sometimes it poses you in a difficult situations. It creates you barrier of the time. But by understanding and by you alone won't do this process. You will have some team, and by understanding and by taking their by taking their steps, you'll also get to know many more new things. And many for I think the important thing in the process of start audit is interaction with the client and professional skepticism, which plays a key role. uh, you know uh, we also it's like it also builds a networking start audit. And still I want to share that we'll face some challenges like resistance in the process of start audit, like resistance from clients and lack of proper documentation, which like incompleting or missing records from the clients sometimes would get. This also cleared with the this can be cleared by communicating with the client. And like unfamiliarity with the business process. So it's like audit is nothing but it's like not only you check the financials. Before you checking the financials, you'll get to know understanding of the business, which is very important. You don't it's like you won't check only numbers. You'll get to know the background of the business, where you feel very interested, like knowing about some new things and knowing about a new business, and again checking into the numbers. And I think this process makes you very excited while doing the audit. So in my articleship, in the 8 months of these things, I learned many new things. It's like not in a it's not like sitting in one place and checking one numbers. And audit, obviously you'll communicate with the client. Obviously you'll have a team which give the support how this process is going on. And I have observed what we have read in our books, which is nothing but practically linked with the process what we are doing here, every point. And which I observed, like many people who has passed out, which I interacted with them, how audit helped you. And I got the answer like, yeah, what we have doing it, most probably, I can't say it is 100%, but most probably will be in the books, which will be related easily. So mostly these days we will face the questions like taking one department is useful or not, but it depends. And I want to add on like yeah, or what tasks as auditor you will face, like data representing and how it is recorded in the books is the most important thing. You have to check it. And it's not about like formulas, applying some formulas and taking the numbers and matching it, but we'll understand the back end process, how it's going on. And if we don't understand the process behind each transaction, it's like we will never grow behind the excel. So there's a different, it may be like due to timing, or due to some errors, miscalculations. Yeah, we will get to know all those. And yeah, this is what. And I think networking, or you'll get good networking opportunities. And good documentation process makes the audit more effective, and which I was observed in my BDO firm. And which I got to know about every area very clearly. And at initial stage, we directly doesn't deal big areas in the financials. We look into the planning, and planning makes planning is the very important thing for the start audit. Whole audit depends on the planning. And as we learn in the in the 500 series and audit evidence, all we link here, we'll take the evidence and we'll check the process how it is going on. And if you talk about 300 series, some risk and 315 about understanding the entity. Yes, at the beginning of the process of audit, we understand the entity. So I was just want to keep the point that what we have read and what we have understand in the process of preparation, the same will be linked in the process of the audit also. And yeah, audit is the very important and core area for a chartered accountants. And if a person looking to choose a one department, it's like if a person looking to take stat audit, yeah, they have to get to know the points like will understand the financials, will understand the laws and regulations which they use to record those financials. um, and yeah, that's about my stat audit. So any questions?
Yeah, Sanjana, we have one question from one of the viewer, like how far will it be relevant for CA final audit? So CA inter audit is different from CA final audit, right? So how far, if we do articleship in our audit domain, like as Mayank has specified, ki working in direct taxation will help far very much in our direct taxation paper. How far will audit help, doing articleship in audit domain will help in our CA final audit subject?
So it may be differ. Inter syllabus and final differ, final syllabus, but most probably what standards, what 500 series tells us about audit evidence. The same 500 series tells in the final also about audit evidence. So most probably they were linked if you ask me. And how this process, we start with scoping, we start with planning, we start and again audit evidence, and we end with the conclusion documentation process. The same process which we're doing in our articleship, the same will be linked in the final. Those four processes will be only now. See, if you want to do the audit, these four steps we will be followed to do. These or the only steps will be in the final. And also, I want to specify that we will go through the one of this chapter where the risk and controls will be. Yeah, this plays a key role, and this gives you a clear evidence when you are doing actual process of the audit. When we are doing actual process of the audit, you will get to know what areas of the risk they were facing, where can be the risk in the client financials, and how they were controlling. You'll observe it clearly, and you'll record in your documentation process, which will be different from every entity. And this documentation process gives a clear vision. If we were continuing auditor, it gives a clear vision for the for the upcoming auditors who are taking up that entity, and they will process the coming up audit steps regarding the same. The question, to summarize the question, whether it is interlinked with CA inter syllabus and our articleship audit and final, yes, most probably I could say yes, they were interlinked, and the same will be observed in the final also.
Thank you, Sanjana. Thank you for your inputs on statutory audit. Now I request Satvik Prabhu to speak about his domain in which he's working. It is indirect taxation. Welcome, Satvik.
Hi, am I audible? And is my audio all right? Video all right?
Yes, Satvik.
Yeah, if there is any disturbance during the session, please let me know.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So I have a PPT ready. My video is not visible. I'll share my. It's not visible. Okay, I'll try sharing my screen. Is my screen visible? And what about video? Okay. Okay. 1 minute. Give me a minute. Am I visible now?
Yes,
Yes,
Satvik.
that was a bit.
Yeah. I've shared my screen. Hello.
Yes, Satvik, it's visible.
Yeah. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Satvik. Brief introduction about me. I'm a national level chess player and I'm also the vice president of Sikasa Speakers Forum, Bengaluru. I finished 1 year, 2 months of articleship at a leading indirect tax firm, and today I'll be covering indirect tax domain. So the first question to all of you is that how many of you find indirect tax boring? How many of you think that indirect tax is boring? The answer, most of you might say that indirect tax is boring, and that was exactly my perception before I started my articleship. The reason why I started was my father was a practicing chartered accountant and he wanted indirect tax expertise. So without any second thought, since he has a flourishing practice, I got into indirect tax, although I wanted to try other domains like finance or M&A tax, etc. So my perception was that GST is all about return filing, mundane, repetitive tasks, no application of mind, and only compliance and compliance. But after joining this firm, and after 1 year, I can say that in the past year, I've done no compliance, no return filing. I'm mostly into indirect tax consulting, and I'm enjoying whatever I'm doing. Every task that I get is not at all repetitive, and it involves a lot of application of mind. So indirect tax basically covers GST, customs, and foreign trade policy. So what we'll be doing in this session is, first of all, I'll be taking you through what kind of works you can expect in this domain. And next we'll talk about the scope of this domain. So nowadays, you might have seen this Ghibli style art, which is taking a lot of traction. So imagine you are a business owner and you have developed a software that can generate Ghibli style art. And it is very famous. Everyone wants to buy your product. And all of a sudden, your turnover exceeded the threshold limit. You're the only person in India who has this product. So since your turnover exceeded the threshold limit, now you have to get your GST registration done and file your returns. So the first thing that any business needs is, of course, return filing. And of course, as CAs, we can help them with their return filing. It may be their GSTR1, 3B monthly returns, or also their annual returns, GSTR9 and 9C. Not only with return filing, we can also help our clients with the review of returns. So the clients have the data ready and they're about to file their returns. They come to us to check whether uh, whatever they have done is right or not. That is review of returns. So this is the basic things which every CA firm does: return filing and review of returns. Now, talking about our product, the product which is a software which helps generate art. The main question that may come to your mind, that may come to the mind of the businessman, is that whether this product is a supply of goods or a supply of service. It is not so simple under GST, because under GST, even things which seem obvious are sometimes not that obvious. For example, supply of electricity, you may think it is a supply of service, but under GST, electricity is goods. Similarly, under GST, sometimes supply of intellectual property rights, sometimes depending on the case, it is a supply of service, and sometimes it is a supply of goods. So the first question that may come to your mind is, it is a supply of goods or supply of service? because your classification, your rate of tax, everything depends on this basic question. Now, once I say that this is a supply of, let's say, service, then your question may come, what is the classification? Because every service has a different classification and a GST. Once you classify your product, again, you have to get to know the rate of tax that is applicable to your product. You need to know whether RCM is applicable on your product, is ITC eligible for your business, etc., etc. So you may get all of these questions, and that is when consulting comes into picture. That is when we CAs apply our interpretation skills, uh, our way of playing with words, our analysis skills, our pattern recognition skills, and we help our clients solve a lot of their queries which may not be directly addressed in law. If they Google, they may not get the answer because many times the answer is not straightforward. For many questions, the answer may be twofold. So it is when the consultants like us come into the picture, we may help them with rate of tax, value of supply, time of supply, place of supply, ITC, etc., and a lot of compliances. So advisory involves a lot of research and a lot of application of mind because cases are not repetitive, they're coming over and over again. And when you talk about taxes, taxes are majorly cost to the company, and no company would like to invest a lot in their taxes. Every company wants to minimize their tax burden, and that is why consultants are like us are hired by them. So we help our clients to plan their taxes, play it properly within the law, and help clients reduce their tax burden. Many times clients might have multiple group entities. So we help the clients structure their transactions in such a way that their cost is minimized, their input tax credits is increased, and their output liability is minimized. Some other things that we also do um, is vetting the agreements, changing the agreements in such a way that the client can claim exemption, and many other things which can help the client reduce their burden. That is the ultimate goal. Now, let's say I have advised the client that the product that we were talking about earlier, the software that can generate art as supply of service, we have said that this is the classification, this is the rate of tax. Now, the department may dispute saying that this is not supply of service, but it should be supply of goods. Because as I said, the answer is not straightforward. I may have my interpretation, the department or the government may have its own interpretation. Some other person may have its own interpretation because law is like that. It is subject to multiple interpretations. That is when department may send a notice or a letter to the businessman saying your practice is not right, pay back the tax along with interest. The department may say that let's say we consulted the client that 18% is the rate of tax, and tomorrow the department comes and says the rate of tax is 28% and not 18%. Now, you need to help the client reply to the department, and the department may again reply back. So there are multiple levels in litigation, and you need to help your client navigate the litigation. The only thing that is different between advisory and litigation is that under advisory you need to the cases may be different. Different clients may come from different industries for different issues. But under litigation, it is usually like there is a trend which is happening, and every department officer sends notices on that particular issue or around that issue. So multiple industries might get affected around a single issue. So when you do advisory, you may get to explore different areas. But when you are doing litigation, it will be the issues which are in trend right now. And then when you talk about litigation, you also get an experience of dealing with the department officers, how their mindset will be, and all of these things. So these are the things you can learn while you do litigation. Next is GST review. Now we have consulted the client and advised them that you should do so and so. But how will you know whether the client has actually applied that or not? So many clients, many big clients often do not want to have any compliance issues. So these clients come to us and ask us to do their health checkup. Just like how a doctor does their health checkup, they come to consultants and ask them to do a complete health checkup and to ensure that they are complying with the provisions of law. It may be rate of tax, it may be value of supply, time of supply, everything. So here what you need to do is just like statutory audit, but from a GST perspective. What happens in statutory audit is that although you also look at GST while you do statutory audit, you do not have as much time to look into GST matters. So you will do it on the surface level. But when you do a GST review, you go through the documents and you ask yourself various questions whether whatever the client is following is right or not. Now, when you compare advisory and review, advisory is where the client himself asks you questions. But when it comes to GST review, you need to look at the documents of the clients, come up with questions, and ask the client why they have been following this, and you need to do your independent research and make sure that whatever the client is following is right or not. Earlier, the GST review was mandatory for many GST registrations, but today GST review is not mandatory. But still, those clients who were there before when the GST review was mandatory have still continued getting GST review done from our company, which means they are getting a lot of value addition. So even if it is not a compliance to get GST review done, many of them come for GST review. One more thing is departmental audits. So many times, many businesses might get notice from the department that you have not done something right. And that is why we want to do an audit of your entity from the GST perspective. So these clients, before the department audit, come to us and ask us to check if everything is right, so that when tomorrow the department comes and checks, nothing is wrong. That is all about GST reviews. Then comes refund. So let's say you paid 18% rate of tax, but in actual you should have paid 12% rate of tax. Now you want to claim the refund of the difference. Similarly, there are multiple occasions under GST like export of services, inverted duty structure, etc., where you can apply for refund. In all these cases, we consultants can act as a middleman, help the client compute the exact refund amount. There's a complex formula for that as well, and ask and negotiate with the department and get the process done fast. Because whenever the department is involved, getting the refunds is difficult because the department may delay the process. So you can help your client save get refunds of crores of taxes through refund as well. And when I talk about litigation, uh, recently our firm helped a client save around 1,000 crore in taxes. And you can imagine how much you can charge if you help such a client save so much in taxes. Lastly comes customs and foreign trade policy. You may know customs duty is applicable in case of import of goods. Recently, I handled a case where my client was importing battery systems. So these battery systems have multiple levels of assembly. So if you import the battery system as a whole, there's a particular rate of tax. And if you get it part wise, there is different rates of tax for the parts. And every level of assembly, there are different rates. So the client came to us and asked, at what level of assembly should we import? Because if we import at a particular level of assembly, the customs duty that we need to pay might get minimized. So we had to help the client to arrive at the particular level of assembly that can help them import the product and minimize the customs duty. For example, even if you're, let's say, importing a car, the duties might differ for the raw materials versus the finished product, etc. Then comes foreign trade policy. Different countries have different policies with different other countries. So you can help clients suggest the best, you can suggest the clients the best country from which they can import the product so that they have minimum tax or cost implications. Next comes why GST. GST is integral to every business, right? Even if you're in a tier 3 city, you may have multiple businesses which want to file GST return every month, and you can help all those businesses. Compared to income tax return, which is filed only once a year, GST return is filed every month, and you can generate much more revenue if you're in practice in GST. Next comes GST is a dynamic law, and it is not a settled law. When I talk about settled law, it is settled over multiple years. Income tax law, for example, is a settled law because the provisions have gone through the test of judiciary for so many years. But GST law is a relatively new law. You may say that Income Tax Act is also getting revived. We are getting direct tax code. But what I feel is direct tax code is nothing but the old wine in a new bottle. It is basically the old income tax getting a new form. But GST was not like that. When it replaced the erstwhile taxes, it got a completely new form and it got its own concepts which have not been tested by the courts yet because there are very few Supreme Court judgments on the GST as of now. So GST not being a settled law, there are multiple possibilities of interpretations of a single provision. And in the past year, there have been 32 circulars, two GST council meetings, many more GST council meetings. A lot of things have happened in just the past 6 to 8 months. So you can imagine how rapidly the GST law is evolving. Next comes supply. Most of the supply of articles of CS is absorbed by statutory audit or internal audit. And if they don't get this, they might go to direct tax. There are very few people who come to indirect tax because they may consider it boring or not rewarding. But what I have seen is that the domain has a lot of demand, but the supply is less. So since the supply is less, you have very less competition and you can excel far better. For example, in my native, in the nearby 2-3 districts, there is no firm which is so good at GST litigation. So every time a GST litigation issue comes, we forward it to a particular firm, and that firm is enjoying all the benefits now. As I said, there is a great scope in practice, and also you can plan it to do along with LLB, and then you can represent your client in high courts and Supreme Courts as well. Talking about international opportunities, GST law was not something from an Indian origin. It was derived from multiple other laws like Australian VAT laws and other country laws. And as a result, GST law is very similar to the indirect tax laws of other countries. So you may get indirect international opportunities as well. And customs law, so importers require you, exporters require you, etc. Lastly, let's talk about limitations. Advisory and litigation may not be everyone's cup of tea. Everyone may not like the play of words. Everyone may not like to interpret law. So it may not be for everyone. But I'm sure most of you will definitely enjoy applying your mind and interpreting law. And lastly, every firm practicing GST may not provide all the services which I talked about earlier. Most smaller firms only provide you exposure in return filing or reviews, annual return, monthly returns, and basic notice replies, and not more than that. So if you want an exposure of all the different services, you may need to apply for the higher firms or bigger firms which exclusively practice in indirect taxes, or the big four firms as well. Lastly, I would like to talk about how you can prepare for interviews. Basic thing, you need to go through the basic things like supply, time of supply, value of supply, place of supply, ITC. You just need to know the basics, which was there in an intermediate, and you're good to go. And after that, you may look at the recent amendments. For example, there is this input service distributor amendment and all of the recent amendments, recent budget amendments. You can go through that, and you're good to go. That was it from my side. And if you have any other doubts, we can connect over LinkedIn and we can discuss. I hope I have been clear throughout the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Satvik, for sharing your experience on this indirect tax domain. So now, as I believe that most of us, people who are viewing us on YouTube and who are live with us, have listed down their expectations and also have a proper decision on paper, because as we have agreed earlier, you might have marked down it when each of the speaker was speaking. So now let us go to the next segment where we will be having a panel discussion on most of the frequently asked questions that most of the CA Inter students have after qualifying the CA Inter. So Sampath will be taking care and he'll be hosting that session. So over to you, Sampath.
Hi, Pradeep. Thank you for the introduction. So I've prepared an analysis where I've basically jotted down all the responses that we've got from the forms. So I'll be sharing the screen, and all of us who have been in the session, you can answer that. So here we go. So basically, we have got around 86 registrations so far as on this time. So we have 45 from CA panel itself. So I've made a common analysis here where we have this top 5 FAQs, which is these are all the 5 FAQs. So let's dive into the first FAQ, which is the most commonly asked by the students, which is about finding a good firm. So firstly, I would like to say that finding a good firm is totally depends upon 2 important aspects. The first thing is, what do you want to see yourself in the future? Whether you want to put a sole proprietorship firm, or you want to start a firm, or whether you want to be employed, you want to start a business, or later on you want to become a partner of a firm. But this is the main driving factor which primarily shows you finding a good firm. So when you see, if at all, finding a good firm, the main factor comes here when you want to see the employment. Because when you are going for employment, most of the companies see that you have to have a very in-depth knowledge, or the companies will definitely hire if you have a good background in the past. Talking about finding a good firm, if at all you want to go for employment, the most suggested is first try starting from the big four or big six or big 10, because these firms have a higher exposure in terms of individual domain related. So suppose I am currently in internal audit domain in big four. So my firm, my domain is particularly focused on internal audit, and whatever depth I get is the knowledge specifically gaining internal audit. And the next thing is that your network. There is a saying that your network is your net worth. So if at all your network is huge, you can directly ask whoever is in that firm currently working over there. But it's not that that firm is bad or good, because if at all the firm that you're going to join has a really good past in the has a really good client base in the past, may not necessarily have the same client base even after you join, because it keeps changing. The business is very dynamic. So if at all you have anyone there, do ask them. For this networking, it totally depends upon how you want to network with people. And most of them say that OC or ITT is one of them, but even attending Sikasa events, which ICI conducts them regularly, like national conferences, fests, or any national talent search competitions, even they help in networking. So whenever you're thinking for networking, choose options where you can get networking. Because today I'm in EY because I did networking. I had a friend who was previously working in EY, and I asked for referral, and that's how I got it. And this is about I want to say about finding a good firm. Now I would like to ask the co-speakers to also speak on it if they also have any other suggestions. Okay, do you all want me to go for the next one?
Yes, Sampath.
Okay. So talking about the next one is the career growth after articleship. I think this should be domain specific because everyone has already said their points regarding how will be the career growth. Talking about internal audit, if at all you want to continue in internal audit itself, it is mostly dependent upon how you want to grow, because sometimes most of the people they do is that they try to shift into an industry. Internal audit can be done both in industry as well as a big four. So it totally depends on where you want to settle at the end. Either you can start in a big four and go into an industry, or continue in big four as a internal auditor. And it totally depends upon the call that you want to take on. And other articleship career growth related, I think we have other departments like statutory audit, transfer pricing, and direct tax and indirect tax, which my co-speakers have very well explained about how will the experience be. So I have told the career growth after articleship about internal audit, but I want to hand it over to other co-speakers to let them say how is the career growth after their articleship.
So I would like to speak about this particular thing in relation to transfer pricing. What I have seen is a lot of my seniors who want to switch from transfer pricing to other domains are finding very difficulty. To get into transfer pricing is really easy because it's a very niche domain. Very less people, try for it, have experience, and articleship people who have done articleship and transfer pricing are very rare because most of the firms don't hire interns in transfer pricing domain. So if you already have this experience, it's very easy to find a job, and you'll have really good career growth if you are into big four's transfer pricing. But if you want to switch from transfer pricing to other domain post qualification, it's difficult, and you also have this industry opportunity. Like you can as an intern you can't, but post qualification it's easy for you to get into industry as well.
Thank you for your valuable inputs, Gayatri. And anyone else wants to say about career growth after articleship of this particular domain?
I'll talk about indirect taxes. Uh, so as I discussed, of course, there is a lot of scope in practice if you're going for indirect taxes, and of course, if you've worked if you worked across various areas of indirect tax like consultancy, litigation, you may have great career growth within the domain, in the industry, or in within the CA firms as well. So talking about switching between domains again, since you have you know how to interpret law under indirect taxes, you may also find it easy to switch between indirect tax and direct tax, or maybe M&A tax, where mainly interpretation is involved. I've seen multiple friends who have done articleship in indirect tax switch to a different domain like direct tax or M&A tax, because mostly it is about interpretation and drafting skills. Yeah.
I want to say about direct tax. If you will done your from direct tax, you will be having a great career in the future. You can have you can have your own practice, which you gonna help in the future, and you can also join the industry in corporate as well. In corporate, there is a huge demand for people who have done their articleship in direct tax. I had gone through a multiple conference and seminar where the leading people from direct tax department who have done who are doing indirect tax, and they come and teach CAs about direct tax. So you can be an advisor it can also help you to transfer from one domain to other. Like in indirect tax, you can switch. In direct tax, you can also switch from one domain to other. You will have a great career ahead if you will do your articleship. But I will add that it will going to be very pressurizing sometime. But don't come in direct tax only if you want to be in a switch career ahead. If you don't get your articleship in your preferred domain, many people join DAC tax if they doesn't get their articleship in stat audit or any different their preferable. So I will not recommend you to come in DAC tax if you doesn't get your articleship in your preferred domain.
Thank you, Mayank. Mr. Pradeep, would you like to add any inputs to this?
Yes, Sampath. So I am also working in internal audit domain. So adding to the points that Sampath spoke earlier. So in internal audit, we get a proper understanding of how a business works because we audit the process. You audit the business process. Like we get a proper understanding of how a company works. So people who are willing to step into entrepreneurship, it will be very much useful for them because they have an end-to-end understanding of how an industry works, how a specific company works. So they'll be having an upper hand when it comes to understanding of business processes because this is where the success of a particular company lies. Because if you are having a proper idea of how a process is to be initiated and completed, you will be taking steps to make it more efficient and effective so that your cost is getting reduced and also you'll be reaping maximum benefit of that. So articleship in internal audit will help you that, and in articleship of internal audit, you get exposure to various type of engagements where you get to work on individual processes. Like you can work on P2P, you get to work on O2C, you get to work on those specific processes, and also you get to work on various specific particular special engagements. So, for example, you can also get to work on ESG audits, like companies now it's as most of you might know, key top 1,000 listed companies should also report their sustainability through BRSR report. So if you're working in internal audit domain, you also get to work on those niche areas. Which areas in those areas generally we do not get to work because it's not a core area of chartered accountants. But when you get to work in internal audit, you also get access to that field as well. So even the opportunity of going into sustainability, making a career in sustainability will also be open for you. So this is just an example. You get to work also on process on direct taxation. Like you may not do the work that people get to do fully in their domain of direct taxation, but you at least but you at least understand how taxation is being reported in that particular company on which you're working. So I feel switching between the domains, it might be helpful for you because you get exposure of a lot of different engagements. So this is what I wanted to add. Thank you, Sampath.
Very well explained, Pradeep. Actually, when I wanted to convey about internal audit, the same thing, but you explained it even better. And the next, the other top thing is managing studies alongside work. So firstly, I feel is that whenever I want to even link this with the above thing, that is learning new skills. So let's talk both of these at once. So firstly, about managing studies alongside work, what I felt and I understood from my seniors is that firstly, focus on the work. Because in the starting 4 to 6 months, all you will get to is learning the work. You will learn to apply how the things are, and based on that, your further progress will go. And studies, our articleship is of 2 years, and then we have 6 months of study leaves, and then comes our final attempt. I understand we have 3 final attempts this year, from this year, but still the study leave period hasn't changed yet. So what I would suggest is that first 4 to 6 months, focus completely on the work. Learn the work that you need to do. Because even what I have done is that I've learned the work properly so that I can now at least be confident on the work that I do and try to understand the process. Because I've been working on a client, and the first time that when I went to understand the process, honestly, I couldn't understand anything. It was very confusing. And even I didn't even understand what questions to exactly pose to them and how to do the analytics part. But fast forward to today, that is 7 months after I've joined, now I can at least be confident enough to ask the client to what to actually ask them and what to know and what to extract the data and how to put a point to the management to consider that. So it totally depends on how willing you're able to learn and how are you able to grasp the skills. And talking about learning new skills, the first thing that I've learned here is the fast way of using Excel and the advanced Excel. Creation of pivot tables and also trying to make some dashboards itself in Excel. Excel is a very powerful tool. Honestly, you can do a lot of analytics in it, and that will really reap you benefits in the future. And also, other than that, another new skill that I have learned in software is Power BI. Power BI is a data visualization tool which helps the management in a various different ways. For suppose I have made a sales dashboard till now, and that was very useful to the client and making them understand how the sales analytics of their how the sales performance of the company is going. And other than this, other than these two software skills, the main thing that you will get is the soft skills, that is the communication skills. Because the primary essential skills in internal audit is that you speak to the process owners directly. This is a client-facing business. That means you need to interact with the process owners on a very regular basis. More than you interact with your team, you'll be interacting with the process owners. And those process owners will have experience even double the age of yours. So it's very important that we communicate to them in such a way that they understand the point and they're able to, replicate that point in their processes. Some clients might be there who will be really very adamant or ignorant about what is happening in their business. So we have to have the negotiation skills, or we have to have the convincing skills to say them that here is a point that you need to correct. If not, this is going to show you a loss. The main thing in internal audit that will teach you one skill is that you will be saying anything, you will have a proof for that. That is how it will make you accountable, is what I can say. And one more thing is that you will get to learn a lot of communication skills because you will be speaking with a lot of process owners. You'll be also speaking with CFOs, or you'll also be speaking with various HODs, which will further increase your experience. So this is what I have learned till now. These are the new skills that I have learned, and I feel Learning new skills has to be the priority when you first join a firm, and then keep the priority as your studies. Because once you get a good grip on the work you do, even after you start your studying, your work goes on. So if anybody else of my co-speakers who are also doing their articleship, if you can share your points, that'll be even great help for the viewers.
Okay, I'll go first. I completely agree with Sampath with respect to what he talked about managing studies. Now that we have 2 years of articleship and compulsory 6 month gap, I don't think managing studies is such a big problem. The only thing that matters is consistency. And if you make sure right from the very beginning that you at least watch one class every day, anything else other than that one class, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
you're
Satvik.
audible.
Uh, Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
So if you make sure, other than that one class, if you make sure you finish with that one class every day, I don't think there's a big problem because you have enough time. The second thing I wanted to talk about is this is a peculiar scenario. Let's say you joined a firm and you didn't get enough work exposure in the first months. So and maybe you'll get work after some months. Initially, they may keep you waiting or something like that. So in those cases, start your studies early. Don't keep it at the end. Start studying right from the beginning, and maybe afterwards when you get a lot of work you may not get enough time to study. So that is one thing. And after that, maybe in the second year you choose to go for industrial training. Maybe in the second year your work pressure is higher, so you cannot keep things for the end. Start right from the beginning. And coming to skills, of course, you can definitely develop a lot of your technical skills while you do your articleship, but also make sure you attend ICI events other than your articleship so that you develop your network, you develop your communication skills, participate in ICI competitions. Like ICI conducts multiple competitions which most people are not aware of, like National Talent Search, conferences where you can go and present. You can go to different cities and present in national conferences, regional level conferences, etc. There are other platforms like Speakers Forum, Toastmasters Club. Every branch has these platforms where you can go and develop your soft skills, your communication skills, your network, etc. Yeah.
Great points. And anyone else would like to add to this?
Yes, Sampath. So, firstly, I'd like to speak about the learning new skills, that part. So after our before we join our articleship, we will be done with our IDT. So I like most of us take it very lightly. We try to bunk or we do some sort of time pass we get to do in that sessions. So mostly I believe the main important thing that we should focus during that IDT is Excel. Like I'm not telling you for other sessions, for other topics you can do time pass, but at least for Excel we need to be focused because that is what will play a major role in our articleship. Most of our work in articleship will be on Excel, and also after that you get to work on different softwares. Well, most of the people who do who do not focus much on working on MS Excel during their ITT will face a bit few issues when they are starting with their articleship. But in case if you are focusing on it during your ITT only, you will be having an upper hand. And as you will be having an upper hand during your initial days of your articleship, you will be able to get the work done very early, and the time that you're able to save there, you can use that in learning new skills. Like there are many other softwares that are very much important or relevant right now from career opportunities perspective as well. Like there are many data visualization tools like Power BI, and there are softwares like Aldrich and all, which offer many certification courses which are available for free, and we can learn those skills from YouTube only. So when we are able to dedicate time to those skills also, that will add an additional benefit in our resume, when we compare ourselves to other people who have not focused on learning Excel during their ITT, and they are learning it during their articleship. By that time only, you also get to learn Power BI. That person will only be having MS Excel after they are done with their articleship, but you'll be having MS Excel, Power BI, and many other tools that you've learned during that period that you've saved. So that, and I also agree with Sampath, we should develop soft skills. So this is also very important because we get to speak a lot of process owners, especially in internal audit. Internal audit is mainly a client-facing domain where you get to work with the department heads, and also you report it. You also report it. You report your observations to the CFO as well. So you need to master your communication skills so that you're articulating it properly. Whatever your observation is, you're articulating it properly, and you should also learn how to convince the other person, because the observation that you find is the mistake that is being done by the other person. So obviously that person will not agree with your point. So you should be able to convince that person that this is the fact and this is what you have done, and these are the mitigation tasks that you can do in order to avoid these mistakes. So this when so these are the skills that you need to learn, technical skills and soft skills. And when it comes to managing studies alongside work, so like every one of us now they'll be having 2 years of their articleship. So initially you should obviously focus on your work, like at least for first 6 months you should fully focus on your work, and after that you should consistently start studying, as Satvik has previously mentioned. And also, as there are 4 SPOMs right now, I believe, like, if it's possible for you, plan your 4 SPOMs in the first year itself. And once it is done, you're half done with your exams. You do not have the tension of writing those exams again. So you get to fully focus only on your classes. So from the second year, you can freshly start by focusing on one particular subject or 2 subjects basis your comfort. And if you start studying consistently, and if you're at least done with 2 or 3 subjects by the end of your second year, after your articleship, you have a lot of time where you get to work on other subjects as well. And this will help you to get to score properly, and also you will be getting a lot of time to revise as well.
Very
That
well
is
said,
something.
Pradeep. That was actually even some of my points that I even wanted to say, and I think you have covered it very well. And especially that finding managing studies was a very useful point, because finishing our self-paced modules is important before we attempt our final examination. So the next point is that we have here is work-life balance. Honestly, this is debatable. Firstly, what I would want to say is that work-life balance varies from person to person. Like even in domain wise, it will vary, because currently, even in internal audit, if I say the work-life balance, it will vary. But suppose in the starting of a quarter, because mostly in internal audit, the engagement will be divided quarter-wise, and after end of each quarter, it will be a board meeting. So whatever work that you have done, whatever observations that you have collected, you have to discuss with the process owners, get it clarified, get it confirmed, get their management comments, get their timeline, and prepare a draft report which has to be presented to the audit committee, where all the shareholders, equity, whoever is invested in the company will be coming there. There'll be all the big people, independent directors. It will be a very big meeting, and you have to have all the data, all the facts ready with you. And usually at the quarter starting, you'll have a great work-life balance. But during the quarter ending, there'll be times, if at all the work is not properly planned, then you might have to sit for longer hours. So at this point, during the quarter ending, there might be, especially when you have to be preparing a draft report to submit to the client, at that point, the work-life balance gets a hit. That's because you'll have to be sitting long hours to finalize all the reports, get the language check done, get your all the annexures, the observations that you want to put before the management. It has to be all prepared. It has to be all neatly written. And especially if you're working in a big four, the formatting, the font, and also the way the colors that you use have to be consistent and has to be as per the company policy. And other than this, the other aspect is that work-life balance, especially when a person if I am there, my office is currently around half an hour away from the way where I live. And for other person, the office can be around 1 to 2 hours away from where they live. So obviously the work-life balance both these people have will be different. So that's the reason I said it is debatable. Other than that, work-life balance has to be dependent upon the way the work that is given to you and the team that you're assigned in, and the way the work is planned as per the schedule. So this is what I want to give the inputs, but I think our articles definitely have a lot of things to say about this. Please go ahead.
Uh, so speaking about work-life balance, I would not like to restrict this to transfer pricing or any of the domain. And this is a very personal thing that I want to tell to each one of you, including the speakers. Please learn to draw boundaries from the very beginning you join your firm. Because what happens is once you get habituated to sit for long hours in the office, it's very difficult to get things back on track, because personally I have experienced this. In the beginning I used to leave early only, like by 6:30, but once the season came, I got habituated to sit for long hours in the office. Till date my season is over in October, and till date I'm not able to like leave early. It's like एक बार आदत पड़ जाती है तो you will it gets normalized and you will be sitting in the office only, even if there is nothing urgent deliverable in your hand. It becomes a habit, and which is very toxic. And I have seen people discussing ki, oh, I stay till 8 o'clock in my firm, I stay till 12 o'clock, I stay till 2 o'clock, I to sleep in the firm. And they are very, it has become normalized a lot, and which is not a good thing. It's very toxic actually. I don't know why people are not speaking about it much. So please try having these boundaries from the very beginning. People might say ये तो जल्दी निकल जाता है, they are काम चोर है, ये वो वगैरह. Please don't care. It's very important to have this, being strict a bit about this. And and it's okay to work for long as if your team really needs you. If there's something urgent you have to deliver tomorrow, the client needs something tomorrow, or your partner needs something, it's okay to stretch for once in a while, but if or in season. But if it's continuously it's happening, and you're daily you're sitting in the office for till late night, I don't think it's something that is acceptable. Please speak up if you are having a lot of work, if continuously hote hi ja raha hai. And you know speak up, speak to your senior. If it doesn't work, speak to someone else. And you know have a good rapport with your senior, so that good comfort zone with your senior or your colleagues to speak up. That is all I would like to say. And it's okay to stretch once in a while. Don't take it that seriously that मैं काम ही नहीं करूँगा, whether it's urgent, I don't care. ऐसा भी attitude मत रखो. If your team really needs you, work, but not, it shouldn't become a habit to stretch. Thank you.
It has been perfectly covered by Gayatri and Sampath. I'll talk about work-life balance from the point of view of indirect tax. So indirect tax domain typically has lesser work compared to, let's say, other domains. So work will be higher during the annual return time, that is November, December, or during the other due dates like GST or 3B due dates. But otherwise, work pressure is relatively less, I believe. And I also have some friends in Big Fours who are into indirect tax domain. Even I have heard from them that work pressure is relatively less. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else want to add any point?
I want to add, indirect tax domain. In that tax domain, there will be months when you will have to sit for the long, long hours. But I have to add here is just be stick to the realistic goals. I have seen articles who are very excited once they knew they pre-commit the deadline. So I don't think you should pre-commit the deadline, whatever the deadline you think is feasible for you, uh, so that you can complete the work. Please stick to a deadline. Please never commit pre-work. Okay, never commit the pre. Uh, if you once you start committing the pre, then there's no going back from there. Your principal or your manager will always want you to always want you to prioritize your health, because I have seen a lot of people who had not prioritized their health, and can have study or neither they can have their articleship. They have to change their articleship from their from a small firm nearby their hometown, because their health is so deteriorated, because they had done the pre-committed some work, or they have cannot manage the stress or work-life balance. So health is a very important factor, I think, because I had spoke to a lot of people in different conferences. They have said me because of their pre-commit or their work-life balance, they have to take transfer to the small firm. So please prioritize your health. Uh, Thank you.
Thank you for the responses, guys. I think everyone have said very well, and especially Gayatri for saying. Satvik, do you want to add any point?
No, that's it. Done.
Okay, so firstly is, I mean, learning to say no in this corporate world is very important, because it's essential that you have to say no at the right point, because if not, you will be getting exploited. Because learning skills and learning work is one thing, and being exploited is another. So think properly, think wisely, if at all you are really needed, or is just that they are taking the advantage. Learning, I mean, working on the time when it is very needed, very much needed, it's okay. But if at all it's conflicting with your personal life goals, or if at all it's conflicting your studies, then it's definitely not okay. And it's definitely not okay to work on time and having a good level of balance. So I think that's a very interesting point and a very important point these days, because work-life balance will take a major hit if at all you don't take care of yourself. So that is it for the FAQ session. Now let's move on to the specific questions, and I want every speaker to answer this. So the first question we have is from Pratmesh Kar. And other co-speakers, you have any answer, any reply that you want to give to this question?
I want, please try to take follow back from where you are sending your CVs, because taking follow back is very important. If you will not take follow back from the firm, you will not know if they need article or not, or you are sending CV and they are just putting it. So please taking follow back is very important.
Um, I want to talk about choosing the firm. I have an interesting point to make. Depend on your team. So if your team is not good, you will not get enough exposure. But if your team is good, you'll get great exposure. So it totally depends on your team in the bigger firms. So let's say you know of a smaller firm and you know what kind of exposure it gives. And if you're certain that that is what you want, instead of trying for the bigger firms, you can definitely go and join the
Anyone else? Could you refer my CV in Big Four or Big Six by firms or like referring in big fours? Okay, if you want to get referred in Big Four or Big Six, we will definitely share you our mail ID and we'll share you the department. And based on that, based on your interest, you can apply. Currently in internal audit, there is no vacancies currently, but if at all there are any vacancies, mostly it will be after the May attempt. If there are any, then I will definitely drop my mail ID and you can just mail your resume to that. And there are currently vacancies in transfer pricing. So if you want, there will be mail ID to that. You can just mail them. So going to the next question here, that is doing articleship in only one specific domain, that is indirect taxation is better than doing it from mid-size and learning every domain. I think this question can be answered better from the person who is already doing articleship in indirect taxation, that is Satvik. Please go ahead. Satvik?
Hello, am I audible now?
Yes, it's you're audible. It's question to you actually, so you're the right person to answer it.
Yeah, so when it comes, I think the question,
You're muted, Satvik.
am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so I think the question here is more about whether you should be doing your articleship in a particular domain or in a firm which practices in multiple domains. So the answer is simple. Well, it is a domain. Becoming a generalist or becoming a specialist has its own benefits. If you are a generalist, you know about multiple fields and maybe you can set up a practice because you know about every field and every area. But then when it comes to complex queries or complex issues, you may not be able to handle because you have not spent as much time in each domain. For example, if you are working in a firm which practices multiple domains, you don't have enough time to experience each domain to the fullest. You'll be just knowing something about everything. That is a drawback with being a generalist. But when it comes to a specialist, let's say that particular domain itself lost its scope in the future. So that is a limitation. But when it comes to the advantages, as I discussed earlier, you will be sought for when there is something complex. For example, in our area again, if there is something that is related to GST, or let's say we have a firm.
That's great. And anyone else who wants to answer on this question? Is anyone else who wants to answer on this question? If at all going for a specific domain or going for a general domain?
I would like to add one point. Rather than thinking in this perspective that a single domain or multiple domains, please try to find an answer for whether you want to be in employment or in practice. I think if you answer that first, this will be easier. If you want to continue in employment, then it's better you choose one specific domain, because anyways it doesn't matter getting exposure in everything, knowing half of everything, uh, rather than having proper expertise in single domain will be helpful, it will be sorted. And if you want to get into practice, then I think going for multiple domains, joining a mid-size is better.
One thing I would like to add, even
if you want to go for employment, it is possible. There are students who have finished single group while pursuing their articleship, but managing it.
Studies of CA Inter and also doing this articleship, if we are having a proper boundary between those both, we can surely do it alongside. But in case if you are giving more time to this internship also, because most of the students during the screening of resume, you will surely have a benefit of that.
Pradeep,
So please, if you are My Airtel account.
if you want to go.
You said, I completely agree to you. Generally, we get confused between choosing these firms because we have a lot of guidance from we keep asking various seniors about their firms. So what I feel is the main important thing that we need to do is restrict the number of people to whom we ask, and also Yes, Avinash. So I'd like to repeat the same thing if it got skipped anywhere. So 2 points. First is if you're researching about a specific firm or getting into a specific domain, don't ask one particular senior from that firm. At least consult at least two people working in that particular firm or working in that particular domain, so that you get the experience of both those people. Like one might have a positive one and the other might have a negative one, so considering that you can take a decision. And the other part, when you're getting to when you're thinking, when you're confused about choosing mid-size or big four, try to consult seniors who got to work, who has experiences of both of those firms, because a person who is working in big four cannot explain you what work at mid-size firm looks like, and the vice versa. The mid-size person who is working in mid-size cannot explain how the work goes in Big Four. So, in order to get a proper guidance and experience, it's better to consult seniors who got to work in both of those types of firms. So that will help you choosing a better getting choosing a better option for your articleship. That is it, Sampath.
Well said, Pradeep. Now let's go to the next question.
I would like to add,
Okay.
as Pradeep said, consult a lot of people, but ultimately every person will guide you based on his own experience, and oftentimes it might be contradictory, and at the end you might end up getting confused. So at the end, I would like to say one thing: सुन लो सबकी, कर लो खुद की. You listen to everyone, but ultimately go with your gut. Whatever you find exciting or you decide, go with it. Uh, of course, uh, you may like it, you may not like it, but ultimately you got to make a decision. And when you listen to so many people will have their own perspectives. Ultimately, you need to go with your gut. That is what I feel.
I think
I
that's
would
a,
I
please
would
go ahead.
like to add one. Good firm always doesn't depend upon the size of the firm, because I have seen a lot of CAs who have done their articleship in very small firm, but they are doing really well in today's market. Then those of the CAs who have done their articleship from the big four or big six. So many of the article think that good firm always depend upon the size of the firm, or big four or big six or big 10 are only the good firm. It is not necessary that only these are the good firms. A small firm can be also good firm, depending upon the exposure and the knowledge of your principals. The knowledge of the principal is very important, because the principal is the the one who will guide you and who will explain you about the market, about the work. So not only go for the big firm because you had listened to from your seniors that they are good firm. Small firm or mid firm can also be good. First, try to see what the exposure they are offering to you. That's all from my side.
Well said, and I think going by our gut is very important as well. And the next question is by Snail Satyam Bambure asking how switching articleship affect your career. So any of my co-speakers want to answer this?
I personally don't think that affects you a lot. So if you think that firm you're working under, do not have any preconceived notions when you start working. Initially, give it some time. But even after that, if you feel that your firm is not giving you enough exposure, it's better to switch it in your first year itself and look for another firm. I don't think it affects your career a lot. There's a person in our office who had worked in a management consulting firm for 4 to 5 months, and then she switched to a stat audit firm, and finally she's in indirect tax firm. And what I can see in her knowledge is that she has an uh, overall understanding when it comes to solving queries. She can look at queries from multiple angles as she has experience in multiple domains. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I think your articleship and your attempt only affect uh, in your first job. Articleship and attempt only matter for your first job. After first job, it all depend upon your skill, how much you know about the market, how much work you can give to your client. After that, it all depend upon you after your first job. But yeah, articleship affect for the first job. It might lead a role for your first job, articleship and your attempt. But after first job, it will never affect in your entire career. But it will have a great notion for your first job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayank. Now let's proceed on to the next question. How to ensure that our practical learning meets the recruiter's expectation for joining the company after articleship? By asked by Deeksha Jain. So one thing that I would say is that to focus on the main work that is being taught over there, which is relevant for the future, and be open to learning. That's the primary thing, because whenever you're open to learning, that's when people want to teach you. So just ensure that your learning path is always on a high. Your learning curve should always lean towards the top, so that you can get to learn so many things, so that whenever you're going for any other company after your articleship, you're able to answer whatever you have done previously, and you have still a good knowledge of it, which you can apply in the job that you're applying. Anyone else wants to answer this question? Okay, so shall we move on to the next question?
Yes.
And the next one is how to manage time allocation to additional hobby or skill along with final studies and work. This is a very difficult thing, I would say, asked by Kushi Patwari. This is one thing that many students will have. Like, for example, I have a hobby of playing guitar, and also currently I am the treasurer of Sikas Hyderabad, so even have an additional responsibility on my hand. So, time allocation to additional hobby. For suppose your hobby means for me playing guitar. So whenever I get any free time out of my all this busy schedule, then I try to allocate time to that. Just analyze your priorities, whichever is your priority, keep it on top. Like for suppose your work is your priority, or your studies is your priority, or your role, if you are doing any other roles other than studies, other your co-curricular activities. Analyze your priorities, list them top to bottom, and based on that, you can allocate time. It's important that we understand our priorities so that we go forward with it. It's not good that you don't give time to the thing that prioritizes the most currently in your life. So this is what I want to say. But if my co-speakers have any point to add upon, then please go ahead.
As I discussed earlier, after your work, keep a minimum time that you want to study every day, considering study is your priority. So keep that minimum time, and after that minimum time, do not stretch your study. You can go ahead with your hobby. So keep some minimum time for your study, and after that you can go ahead with your hobby if you have time. And more often than not, you will have time. You are just making excuses, or yeah, that is what I feel.